Consciousness felt like being thrown into a bucket of ice water, with every limb and bone filled with piercing cold. My name is George, 35 years old, worth billions. But now I am just a prisoner trapped inside my own body, without even the strength to open my eyelids. By my ear, the beep, beep of the heart monitor sounded like the pendulum of the underworld's death clock, faint, yet utterly despairing. Clearer than the ticking of the clock was the low whisper of two demons by the bedside. "Mary, don't hesitate. Pull it out." It was Leo, the young man I had dug out from a poor mountain village, supporting and mentoring him like a real brother. The simple and grateful face he usually wore must be twisted beyond recognition at this moment. His voice no longer held a trace of respect, only the uncontrollable excitement and malice of a wolf smelling blood. With him like this, what's the difference between him and a living corpse? Being alive is just suffering. We're the future. Do you understand? The business empire he built with his own hands will be our best wedding gift. A wedding gift? What a wedding gift. The last breath in my chest turned into boiling lava, yet I couldn't even let out a roar. Then, I heard my wife's voice. "Mary." I once thought she was the softest and most vulnerable woman in the world, the one who needed my protection the most. I built a castle of money for her, pampering her like a princess, believing that this could make up for the lack of companionship caused by my busy career. At this moment, her voice is trembling. How I wish it were because of sadness or even a trace of pity. But I was wrong. Trembling is the resoluteness of having made a certain decision. He really won't wake up again? Didn't the doctor say there was still a chance? What chance? "Mary, wake up." Leo's voice carried a kind of bewitching power. He leaned close to her, and I could even imagine the blatant desire in his eyes. "Doctor, that's just a way to cheat you out of money. Think about it. From now on, we can walk openly in the sunlight, no longer sneaking around like we do now, living in fear and anxiety. With just a gentle pull, it will all be over, and we will both be free." "Free." Mary murmured the word, as if completely hypnotized. I could feel a strange scent mixed with the expensive perfume she wore, drawing close to my face. Immediately after, a cold, trembling hand covered the oxygen tube that connected to my life. It was her hand. I used the last bit of strength in my soul, screaming and struggling, trying to break free from the prison of this body. I want to open my eyes and stare fixedly at the faces of these two traitors. I want to grab that hand and drag her into hell with me. But everything is in vain. The suffocating feeling, like the most turbulent tide, instantly floods my mouth and nose, drowning my lungs. The last light in my vision is swallowed by an endless darkness. In the last second before my consciousness completely faded, I clearly heard a soft sob from Mary. It was not a cry of sorrow, but a kind of sobbing of relief. Boom! Suddenly, I opened my eyes wide. Like a drowning man breaking through the water's surface, I gasped for fresh air. A strong palpitation made me spring up from the soft bed, my chest heaving violently, cold sweat instantly soaking through my silk pajamas. The bright sunlight outside stung my eyes painfully. This is not hell, nor is it that cold hospital room filled with the smell of disinfectant. This is the bedroom of Mary and me, a spacious flat at the top of the city that I personally designed when we got married. I stiffly turned my head and looked toward the bedside table. On the electronic calendar, a line of numbers was clearly imprinted on my retina. September 15th, 2021. 3 years ago. Exactly 3 years ago. I remember this day. In a week, I would accidentally meet Leo for the first time at a charity gala hosted by the group, where he spoke on stage as a representative of impoverished students. I'm not dreaming. I'm back. I'm really back. I reached out with trembling hands, touching my chest. There was no wound filled with tubes, only a strong and powerful heartbeat. I touched my own throat. The suffocating feeling before death seemed to still be imprinted on my skin, bringing a burning sting. In my ears, the devilish whispers of Leo and Mary played repeatedly, clearer than the most vicious curses. That was not an illusion. That was a deep and unforgettable hatred. I slowly got out of bed, barefoot stepping on the cold marble floor, and walked step by step into the bathroom. In the mirror was a face that looked 3 years younger. Free from the torment of illness, the eyes were sharp, full of vigor and spirit. This face still carried that overly naive confidence in the world and human nature, born from success in a past life. But at this moment, in the depths of this young face's eyes, a hellish fire was burning. I looked at myself in the mirror, grinning. The smile must have been as fierce as a demon's. "Mary Leo." I whispered these two names, each word squeezed out from between my teeth. In the previous life, the game was ended by you. In this life, the rules will be set by me. Clean your neck, get ready. To welcome the feast I have carefully prepared for you. The bathroom door was gently pushed open, and Mary walked in wearing a sexy silk nightgown, lazily yawning. "Honey, why did you get up so early today?" She habitually hugged my waist from behind, her soft body pressing against me, her voice carrying the coquettishness of just waking up. "Did I wake you? How about I stay and sleep with you a little longer?" In my past life, every time she acted so coquettishly, I would soften completely, feeling that no matter how great the empire I built for her, it was all worth it. But now, every touch of her body makes me feel a wave of physical nausea. Those hands once personally pulled out my oxygen tube. I didn't push her away. My body just became incredibly stiff in an instant. No need. I looked at her delicate yet bewildered face in the mirror, my tone so flat it showed no emotion. "There's an important meeting today. I'll go to the company early to prepare." Another meeting, more work. Mary immediately let go of me, her tone full of a little girl's complaint. "How long has it been since you really spent time with me? Yesterday I told you I liked a new Hermes bag, and you forgot. Is that so?" I turned around, pinched her cheek, and forced a gentle smile on my face. "Forget it. It's my fault. How about this? My black card is with you, and it has no limit. Whatever you want, just use it yourself. Consider it my way of making amends, okay?" Hearing the black card, Mary's eyes instantly lit up, and the little displeasure from just now immediately vanished. She stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the face, smiling like a child who had just received candy. I knew my husband was the best. Then I'm going shopping with Lily and the others today. Go ahead. Watching her happily run out, the smile on my face vanished instantly, leaving only cold mockery. This is my wife, Mary, a woman whose mind is filled with materialism and vanity. Her emotions, joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness, are so cheap that they can be easily bought with just a credit card. In my previous life, I was just like this, using an endless stream of money to fill her empty soul, only to raise an ungrateful traitor who conspired with others to devour me. In this life, I will not make the same mistake again. No, maybe I should let her sink a little deeper into this kind of happiness. I picked up my phone and called my assistant. "Good morning, Mr. George. Mike, get in touch with the State University and tell them that Ocean Deep Group is ready to establish a higher value special scholarship at their school called the Ocean Deep Inspiration Award. Every year, sponsor 10 students who excel both in character and academics, but come from extremely poor families. Remember, it must be the very poorest kind." The assistant on the other end of the phone was momentarily stunned, clearly not understanding why I suddenly cared so much about charity, but still immediately agreed. "All right, Mr. George, I'll get right on it. The standards for the awards ceremony. The standards must be high." I looked into my own cold eyes in a mirror and said slowly and clearly, "I will attend in person and personally present the awards to the winning students." Yes, I did not stop their meeting. On the contrary, I want to be even more enthusiastic than in my past life, personally casting this fishhook called kindness right in front of the jackal lurking in the gutter. "Leo, let's replay the script from our past life. But this time, I was the director." A week later, the auditorium at State University was packed to capacity. The awards ceremony for the Ocean Deep Inspirational Award was arranged by me to be exceptionally grand. The media, university leaders, social celebrities. I wanted this good deed to be known by everyone. I sat in the very center of the front row, smiling as I looked at the stage. Mary sat beside me, wearing a Chanel suit I had custom-made for her, somewhat bored as she played with her nails. She had never been interested in these kinds of events and was only attending because I insisted. Next, please welcome our award-winning student representative, Leo, to the stage to give a speech. With the host's impassioned voice, a tall and thin figure stepped onto the stage. He wore a faded old t-shirt and jeans, with a pair of canvas shoes on his feet that were about to come apart, completely out of place in this magnificent and splendid auditorium. His hair was a bit messy, and his skin looked somewhat sallow from long-term malnutrition, but those eyes were astonishingly bright. I squinted, scrutinizing this good little brother from my past life. I have to admit, he is very good at disguising himself. That deliberately displayed awkwardness and inferiority, mixed with the ambition and shrewdness that could not be hidden deep in his eyes, combined into an extremely complex temperament. This temperament, for a woman like Mary who lived in an ivory tower and had never seen any storms, had a fatal attraction that would cause maternal instincts to overflow. Sure enough, Mary beside me sat up straight, and for the first time, a look of curiosity appeared on her face. "Honey, he looks so pitiful," she whispered in my ear. I sneered inwardly, but said gently, "Yes, children from poor families have to grow up early. It's not easy." Leo's speech was flawless and full of emotion. He recounted how he came out of the mountains, how he worked 3 jobs while maintaining the top grades in the entire department. When he got emotional, his eyes welled up and his voice choked. A wave of sympathetic applause broke out from the audience. I, like the kindest philanthropist, led the applause. After the speech ended, it was time for the awards ceremony. I personally walked onto the stage, took the envelope containing the $100,000 scholarship from the host, and handed it to Leo. "Study hard, young man." I gently held his hand, which was cold from nervousness and excitement, as if in a past life. "If you ever face any difficulties, you can come to me anytime. This is my business card." Leo's body trembled suddenly. He looked up at me with a gaze almost like a pilgrimage, his lips trembling, too excited to speak. "George, Mr. George, I really don't know what to say. You are like my reborn parents." "Don't say that." I kindly patted his shoulder, my palm lingering on his shoulder blade for a moment. "So thin, like a wolf cub that hasn't fully grown. Your hard work deserves this reward, and I look forward to your future achievements." I could feel all the blood in his body boiling at that moment. To be so appreciated by a business tycoon worth billions is like a divine decree for an ambitious poor boy. He couldn't see the deadly cold intent hidden beneath my gentle smile. After the event, I said to Mary, "This kid is not bad. He's got some spirit. How about I invite him to our house for a meal sometime? What do you think?" Mary was momentarily stunned. Then her eyes lit up. "Great. I think he's too thin. I'll ask Sister Zhang to make him a pot of chicken soup to nourish him well." Look, it's this kind of look. A condescending, self-righteous kind of kindness. What she longs for is not Leo as a person, but the poverty alleviation story that can bring a touch of freshness and drama to her dull and boring life. What Leo wants is the money in my pocket, and you by my side. Very good. The fishhook has already been cast. The fish have also caught the scent of blood. A carefully prepared chance encounter for you all is now officially beginning. For the weekend dinner, I indeed invited Leo to my home. He changed into a cheap but clean shirt, carrying a bag of worthless local specialties brought from his hometown. Standing at the entrance of our house, which could fit 3 cars, he looked uneasy and didn't know where to put his hands. "Mr. George, Mary, am I bothering you too much?" "What nonsense." Mary was as warm as a hostess, smiling as she took the things from his hand. "Come in quickly and have a seat. Make yourself at home. Don't be polite." At the dining table, I kept accidentally praising Leo to Mary. "Leo, this kid is really something special. I looked at his resume. In 3 years of university, he had received every scholarship available and ranked first in every major course. Young people nowadays rarely have such diligence and dedication. Mary, while serving food to Leo, looked at him with an admiring gaze. Yes, just hearing that makes one admire him. Leo, eat more, you look too thin. Leo was overwhelmed with gratitude. His face flushed bright red, and he kept burying his head in his bowl, mumbling indistinctly, "Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mr. George," and I, like the most skilled hunter, watched all of this coldly from the sidelines. I saw how, when Mary's hand accidentally touched the back of Leo's hand, Leo's body stiffened instantly and his breathing suddenly became rapid. I saw how, when Leo lifted his head and secretly looked at Mary with a gaze mixed with inferiority, admiration, and a hint of hidden love, a barely noticeable trace of satisfied vanity flashed across Mary's face. Everything was exactly the same as the memories from my previous life, not a bit different. After dinner, I used the excuse of having an urgent video meeting to leave the space to them. "Mary, you keep Leo company and chat with him. Don't let him feel awkward." "Okay, honey, you go ahead and get busy." Mary agreed unusually cheerfully. I walked into the study, closed the door, but didn't turn on the computer. Instead, I went to the huge floor-to-ceiling window and lit a cigarette. My cold face was reflected on the glass window. The study room has good soundproofing, but I don't need to listen. I can imagine what's happening in the living room. Leo would sit awkwardly in a corner of the sofa, while Mary would take the initiative to find topics, asking about his hometown and his studies. Then, Leo would use his most skilled method to tell those half-true, half-false, artistically embellished tragic stories, arousing Mary's maternal instincts and overflowing sympathy. Then, they would talk about dreams and the future. Mary would complain about my lack of romance and the boredom of life. Leo, on the other hand, would use a look that said, "I understand you," to precisely capture the emptiness deep inside her heart. The chemistry between them was like dry wood meeting a blazing fire. What I need is just an occasional breeze. Sure enough, from that day on, the number of times Mary mentioned the name Leo kept increasing. "Honey, Leo said his mother is not in good health. I want to send some supplements to her on behalf of our family." "Honey, Leo said he wants to get a certificate, but the registration fee is too expensive. Can we help him?" "Honey, Leo is really talented. He can even write poetry. Unlike you, who only knows how to make money all day long." I smiled and agreed to everything. "All right, just handle it as you see fit. If you don't have enough money, just take it from me." Yes, I'm just a rough man. I don't understand poetry or songs." My indulgence, like water, silently nourished the distorted feelings between them. Soon, I began frequent business trips and overtime. Sometimes, even though I was clearly in a suite at a 5-star hotel in the city, I would send Mary a WeChat message. "Wife, I can't come home tonight. I'm out entertaining clients, and we'll be talking until very late." Mary's reply was always so considerate. "Okay, husband, don't overwork yourself. Take care of your health." Then, within half an hour, the high-definition pinhole cameras I installed in every corner of the house would transmit the long-awaited scenes to my laptop in real time. I saw Leo sneakily enter my house. He would first bring Mary some cheap little gifts, like a hairpin bought from a street stall, or a cup of her favorite milk tea. And Mary, a woman used to luxury goods, would smile sweetly as if receiving a rare treasure. Then, they would sit close together on the Italian genuine leather sofa I bought, whispering to each other. After that, tentative hand-holding, hesitant embraces, and rapid breaths and disheveled clothes on the sofa. The first time I saw them kissing on the surveillance footage, I was calmly pouring a glass of 1982 Lafite, sitting in front of the screen as if watching a well-produced but melodramatic movie. I thought I had already rehearsed this scene countless times in hell, and I should have been numb by now. My reason told me to stay calm. This was all part of the plan. But when Leo tore off his hypocritical mask, blindfolded Mary with the Hermes silk scarf I bought her, and pressed her down on the Steinway piano I gave her, kissing her wildly. At that moment, the vivid scene on the screen overlapped violently with the cold, suffocating feeling I had just before dying. The strings of reason snapped instantly. I neither shouted nor smashed the computer. I just slowly, bit by bit, squeezed the slender stem glass in my hand. Crack! Bang! The crisp sound of shattering echoed in the silent suite, sounding particularly harsh. Sharp shards of glass pierced deeply into my palm. Dark red blood mixed with red wine dripping drop by drop through my fingers onto the expensive Persian carpet beneath me. Like blooming poppies, symbolizing sin. I can't feel any pain. I just stare fixedly at the screen, watching those two shameless scoundrels roll recklessly in the home I built with my own hands. The corner of my mouth even curled into a twisted and mad smile. Very good, I whispered to myself, my voice hoarse like sandpaper rubbing. That's it. A little more. Show me all of your ugliness. All of it. The sharp pain in the palm strangely gave me a twisted sense of pleasure. It reminded me that this was not a dream, that I was still alive. I am alive to watch how they step by step walk into the grave I have dug for them. Wiping the blood off my hand, I used my uninjured left hand to make a call. The call was quickly answered, and a capable, cool female voice came through. Mr. George, Lawyer Jane, the matter I mentioned to you last time can now be started. The person on the other end of the line, named Jane, is a top-notch lawyer I poached at great expense from a leading law firm. She is intelligent, calm, and ruthless, a renowned sharp blade in the legal world. Most importantly, she only cares about money, not right or wrong. She is the sharpest scalpel carrying out this revenge for me. All right, Mr. George. Jane's voice was flat. I have prepared several plans regarding the surveillance evidence collection of your private property and the subsequent asset preservation. They can be activated at any time. No rush. I looked at the living room on the screen, which had returned to calm, and said lightly, let them enjoy themselves for a while longer. The fish caught in one net are the fattest and most delicious. After hanging up the phone, I stood up and walked to the mirror, carefully wiping the bloodstains and glass shards from my palm with a tissue. The reflection in the mirror showed me with an eerily calm gaze. Mary Leo, you think this is love? No, this is just the sweetest hell I have crafted for you with my own hands. Now, enjoy it to the fullest. The next day, I returned from a business trip, and Mary acted like the perfect wife. She prepared a lavish dinner for me, gently massaged my shoulders, and her words were full of sympathy for my hard work. Looking at her flawless face, all I felt was a cold sneer. Such great acting, it would be a waste not to win an Oscar. At the dinner table, I casually mentioned, by the way, our company recently has a new investment project over in the west side of the city. It looks very promising, but all the directors I have on hand are too busy and can't spare anyone. I paused, looked at Mary, and pretended to ponder. What do you think about letting Leo give it a try? I think that kid is smart and energetic. Letting him work by my side as a project assistant to learn more would also be me, as his older brother, giving him a hand. Mary's eyes suddenly lit up, and she almost dropped her chopsticks on the table. She suppressed her excitement with great effort, speaking in a tone that was both magnanimous and relieved. Honey, you are really wonderful. I always knew you were the kindest. If Leo knew, he would be overjoyed. A family speaks with one voice. I smiled meaningfully. So, under my special selection, Leo, who was still a senior in college, rocketed into the core project team of Ocean Deep Group and became my personal assistant. I personally took him under my wing, teaching him hand in hand how to read financial reports, analyze the market, and formulate plans. I even unreservedly shared with him the experience and connections I had gained from more than a decade of hard work in the business world. Leo was like a dry sponge, voraciously absorbing everything. His intelligence and learning ability truly exceeded my expectations. In just 1 month, he transformed from a clueless rookie about business into a competent project assistant. Everyone in the company talked about my act of favoritism, but no one dared to say much because of my authority. Meanwhile, Leo, amidst everyone's envy and my trust, began to visibly let his ambition swell. He was no longer that timid poor student. He started wearing designer suits and the luxury watch I gave him, and his tone of voice became increasingly confident. He even learned to use the phrases I taught him to rebut department managers who were much more senior than him during meetings. The higher I promoted him, the more he believed he was a child of destiny. He began to feel that the only difference between him and me was luck. And Mary was the shortcut he used to change his luck. With the cover of the company identity, their connection became even more reckless. Mary would use the excuse of bringing me a lunch with love to come to the company and exchange glances with Leo in the break room. Leo took advantage of the convenience of reporting work to flirt with Mary on WeChat right under my nose in my office. I saw all their disgraceful behavior, but remained calm and unperturbed. I even began to hand over the carefully designed new West City project, full of fatal flaws, to him step by step. Leo, I think you can independently take charge of a small part of this project. Go for it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. If the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you. I patted his shoulder, my tone full of trust and esteem. Leo's face flushed with excitement as he solemnly promised me that he would never let me down. Of course, he had no idea that this project, which seemed profitable on the surface and could quickly earn a merit, was actually filled with financial traps and legal landmines I had personally planted at every stage, from the land auction valuation to the contracts signed with downstream contractors. As long as I want, I can detonate it at any time, reducing him to pieces, never to recover. But now Leo has been blinded by ambition and desire. Getting this project was like obtaining a golden key to success, and he couldn't wait to prove himself to Mary and to the whole world. He began to grow bolder and bolder. In the company, he used the power I gave him to win people's hearts, cultivate his own influence, and attempted to undermine me. In private, he was no longer satisfied with playing hide and seek with me. One night when I went to a neighboring city to attend a summit, the surveillance footage showed him returning to the dark and damp rented room he had off campus, accompanied by Mary. It was a room of less than 10 square meters, filled with the mixed smell of cheap takeout and mold. Mary, the woman who wouldn't sleep on anything less than top-quality silk sheets, now looked like a girl tasting forbidden fruit for the first time, her face flushed with excitement and thrill. Leo, isn't this place a bit unsafe? She nervously glanced around. What's there to be afraid of? Leo hugged her from behind, burying his face in the hollow of her neck, his voice hoarse and greedy. Here, we are the masters. Without him, without that hypocrite who traps you in a cage with money. He pinned Mary down on the creaking single bed. Mary, do you know? Soon, very soon, I'll be able to give you everything you want. That old man, he's old now. He doesn't understand you, and he doesn't deserve to have you. Everything he has should be ours. Leo, Mary half resisted, panting. I expressionlessly turned off the surveillance footage. Enough. After feeding it for so long, this jackal has finally been fattened up by me. He was no longer satisfied with having an affair. He began coveting my empire and even started plotting how to replace me, just like in his previous life. My phone screen lit up. It was a message from Jane. Mr. George, the target has recently been in frequent contact with the vice president of Splendor Group, our company's biggest competitor. I intercepted their call recording. Leo is trying to use the West City project as a bargaining chip to secretly cooperate with them, attempting to establish his own independent operation. I looked at the message, the smile at the corner of my mouth growing colder. Even the script was exactly the same as in my previous life. This ungrateful, white-eyed wolf would never learn how to write the word loyalty. I replied with 2 words, watching. Then I called Mary. The phone rang for a long time before being answered, and Mary's voice carried a hint of panic and unsteady breathing. Us, husband? Why are you calling? I miss you, I said in the gentlest tone. Honey, your birthday is next week. Did you forget? I of course remember. I have prepared an unprecedented grand birthday party for you, booked the top hotel banquet hall in the city, invited all our friends and family, and all the celebrities in town. I want everyone to know that you are my George's most beloved woman." Mary on the other end of the phone gasped, her voice filled with incredulous surprise. "Husband? Ew. Are you serious?" "Of course." I paused, then threw out the final bait, "And I will also announce a surprise gift for you in front of everyone." A surprise gift? I knew, upon hearing these 4 words, what Mary and the man beside her were thinking. They must have thought that the gift would be a transfer of shares in the Ocean Deep Group, their ticket to a happy future. They joyfully believed that the prey was finally walking into their trap. They will never know. What I prepared for them was not a surprise gift at all. It was a one-way invitation to hell. On Mary's birthday, the moonlight was exceptionally beautiful. The rooftop sky banquet hall of the Bay Hotel was decorated by me to look like a dreamy fairy tale world. A dazzling crystal chandelier, a shimmering champagne tower, a melodious live band, and guests dressed in elegant attire, chatting and laughing throughout the venue. This was not just a birthday party, but a spectacle showcasing the power and prestige of the Ocean Deep Group. I linked arms with tonight's star, my wife Mary, as we appeared at the entrance of the banquet hall. She wore a haute couture starry night dress I had air-shipped from Paris, adorned with tens of thousands of tiny diamonds on the hem, sparkling brilliantly under the lights, breathtakingly beautiful. Her face wore a happy, yet reserved smile, enjoying the envy and blessings coming from all directions. Mr. George, Mrs. George, truly a perfect match, a match made in heaven. "Mary, you look so beautiful today. Your husband really dotes on you, doesn't he?" Mary smiled gracefully, handling it with ease, but her eyes uncontrollably searched for something in the crowd. She quickly found her target. Leo, as my trusted aide and project leader, was also able to attend this top-tier banquet today. He was dressed in a well-tailored Armani suit, his hair neatly combed, holding a wine glass, skillfully chatting with several business tycoons. Seeing us come in, he immediately put down his glass and hurried over to greet us. "Mr. George, Mary." His address remained respectful, but those eyes, when looking at Mary, were filled with undisguised possessiveness and the pride of someone about to rise. That look seemed to say, "Look, this woman, this scene will soon all be mine." I pretended not to notice anything and kindly patted his shoulder. "Leo, thank you for your hard work today. Please entertain the guests a bit more." "You're welcome, Mr. George." Leo and I exchanged a glance, and deep in our eyes, there was even a hint of provocation and pity. Pity? He probably thought that I, this poor soul about to be replaced, was still kept in the dark. I smiled and said nothing more, linking arms with Mary as we walked into the center of the dance floor. The music started, and I held her waist as we slowly began to dance. "Are you happy?" I asked her softly. "Happy." Mary rested her head on my shoulder, her voice sweet to the point of being cloying. "Honey, thank you for everything you've done for me." "Fool, for you anything is worth it." The smile on my face was so gentle it could drip water. Only I knew that every second I held this woman, I wanted to vomit. After the dance, the banquet officially began. After 3 rounds of drinks and 5 flavors of dishes, when all the guests were at their highest spirits, I walked onto the stage in the center of the banquet hall and took the microphone. The spotlight focused on me, and the entire room instantly fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good evening." My voice, amplified through the speakers, clearly spread to every corner of the banquet hall. "Thank you all very much for coming to my beloved wife Mary's birthday party tonight. Today, besides celebrating my wife's birthday, I have a special gift to give her." Mary, sitting in the audience, covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes welling up with tears. Leo stood not far away, holding a wine glass, a confident smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The entire room erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. I raised my hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. At the same time, I also want to give this gift to another young man I admire the most, my capable assistant, Mr. Leo. Leo, whose name was mentioned, feigned surprise for a moment. Then his face showed a humble yet honored expression, drawing envious glances from those around him. Everyone thought I was about to perform a touching scene of the boss recognizing an outstanding employee. I shifted my tone and pointed to the huge LED screen behind me. This gift is somewhat special. It is a video, a recording of our family warmth and company camaraderie. Everyone, please enjoy it with me. The screen lit up. The video began to play. At first, it was some carefully edited warm clips of Mary and me, from falling in love to getting married, chasing on the beach, dinner by candlelight, vows at the wedding, scene after scene, as beautiful as a romance movie. Mary in the audience had tears streaming down her face, immersed in this carefully crafted happiness. Many female guests showed expressions of being moved. The warm music in the video reached its climax at this moment. Then, the music abruptly stopped. The scene suddenly shifted at this moment. The camera switched to the perspective of the computer in my study, and on the computer screen, there were clear images of my living room, bedroom, and even the piano room. Real-time surveillance footage from each pinhole camera. Immediately, the screen switched. All the guests in the hall gasped sharply. On the huge LED screen, the scene of Leo and Mary passionately kissing on my home sofa was magnified hundreds of times and clearly displayed in front of everyone. Under the high-definition close-up, their dazed expressions, rapid breathing, tangled limbs. Every detail was exposed without escape. The banquet hall fell into instant silence. The previously melodious music stopped completely, leaving only the suffocating feeling of dozens or hundreds of people holding their breath simultaneously and the crisp sound of cutlery dropping to the floor. The color drained from Mary's face in an instant. She stared blankly at the screen, as if struck by a bolt of lightning, her body swaying unsteadily. "No, this can't be true. This isn't," she murmured, her mind completely blank. The video continued to play. The scene shifted from the living room to the bedroom, from the sofa to the piano I had given her. I edited every clip of their affairs into an amazing action blockbuster, set to the most explosive music. "George, you're crazy." Mary finally snapped out of it, screaming hysterically, pointing at me like a true lunatic. "Why are you doing this to me? Why do you want to humiliate me in this way?" Leo also rushed over, pulling the limp Mary behind him, the smug look from before gone, replaced only by shock, anger, and panic. He stiffened his neck and shouted at me righteously, "George, you pervert. You actually installed surveillance cameras in your own home. You have no idea what love is. You only know how to use money to bribe and humiliate people. Mary is truly miserable being with you." He tried to blame everything on my need for control, turning their sordid affair into a glorified pursuit of true love. "Love," I laughed, a laugh filled with endless sorrow and mockery, echoing throughout the silent hall. "You want to talk to me about love?" I picked up the remote and pressed the next play button. The image on the screen disappeared, replaced by an audio clip. A segment. Extracted from the voice recorded on the voice recorder I hid under my pillow with my last strength before dying. "Mary, don't hesitate. Pull it out. With him like this, what's the difference between him and a living dead? We are the future. His empire will be our best wedding gift. He really won't wake up again? No, he won't. Unplug it, and all this, and we'll be free." The whispers of those two demons, amplified by top-notch audio equipment, echoed in everyone's ears. Those venomous, impatient words were even more chilling than the obscene video from earlier. I walked down the stage step by step, stopping in front of them, my gaze as cold as if I were looking at two corpses. "Mary, Leo, is this the love you speak of?" My voice was not loud, but like a blade tempered with ice, it pierced deeply into their hearts. "Is it the love of plotting to kill me when I'm critically ill, just to inherit my fortune? Now," I stared fixedly at that face, already distorted by fear. "I brought you out of the mountain valley, I sponsored your education, gave you a job, treated you like my own brother. Is this how you repay me? You ungrateful, traitorous, white-eyed wolf. Mary, I turned to the woman who was slumped on the ground, her face pale and expressionless. I gave you wealth and luxury, pampered you to the heavens, and this is how you love me? Because the money I gave you couldn't fill that empty, restless heart of yours, you needed to find a dog outside who could sweet-talk you, right? The whole room erupted in shock. The guests who had just been envious of Mary now looked at her with contempt, disgust, and disdain. A series of gazes, like the sharpest knives, tore their dignity to shreds, leaving them utterly exposed. No, I didn't. Mary shook her head wildly, speaking incoherently. Leo's disguise was completely shattered. He looked at me, and in his eyes there was no longer hypocrisy or pride, only the rawest terror and the most venomous hatred. At that moment, the banquet hall door was suddenly pushed open with a loud bang. A group of police officers in uniform, with serious expressions, strode in under the lead of my lawyer Jane. Jane walked up to me, handed me a document, then looked at Leo, whose face was ashen, her voice cold and professional. Mr. Leo, we have sufficient evidence to suspect you of embezzlement, leaking trade secrets, financial fraud, and attempted premeditated murder. Please come with us. The feast had only just reached its climax. The moment Leo saw the police and Jane appear, he completely broke down. His once self-righteous face was finally torn apart by fear. No, you can't arrest me. It's George. He's the one who framed me. He roared hysterically like a trapped beast. That project was assigned to me by him. It was all his conspiracy. Two police officers stepped forward, one on each side, and with cold handcuffs, firmly locked the hands that I once taught to sign contracts worth hundreds of millions. Mr. Leo, every word you say will be recorded. The lead officer said expressionlessly. But now, please cooperate with our investigation. Leo struggled wildly, his hateful gaze locked onto me like a mad dog about to be dragged to the slaughterhouse. George, you'll die a miserable death. You despicable little man. Even as a ghost, I won't let you go. I just looked at him coldly, as if watching a clown making a fool of himself. A ghost? I have already crawled back from hell. And you, what are you worth? When Leo was forcibly dragged out of the banquet hall, this absurd and grand birthday party completely turned into a joke. The guests whispered among themselves, casting looks between Mary and me with the eyes of spectators watching a show. Those gazes mixed with sympathy, contempt, and schadenfreude. I don't care. I walked over to Mary, who was still slumped on the ground, lost and distraught, looking down at her from above. She lifted her head, and the once beautiful and charming face was now covered with tears and snot, looking utterly miserable. George, please, for the sake of our marriage, just let me go. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. She crawled over, trying to grab my pant leg, pleading in a pitiful voice. A married couple? I chuckled softly, then slowly crouched down, leaning close to her ear and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. Mary, when you were discussing with me how to pull out my oxygen tube, why didn't you think about the fact that we're a married couple? Her body stiffened suddenly, her pupils contracted sharply, and the last bit of color drained from her confused face. I took another document from Jane's hand and lightly tossed it in front of her. This is the divorce agreement. I have already signed it. My voice was soft, yet carried an undeniable cruelty. You will leave with nothing. This house, all the cars, jewelry, and luxury goods under your name are all my premarital property and gift from my personal property after marriage. Now, I'm taking it all back. No, you can't do this to me. Mary screamed. I'm your wife. Marital property is shared. Shared property? I interrupted her, throwing another thicker document in her face, papers scattering all over the floor. Inside here is all the evidence of how, over the past 2 years, you exploited my trust, squandered my money to buy cars, rent houses, paved the way for that gigolo of yours, and even tried to collude with him to secretly transfer company assets through illegal means. Mary, if this goes to court, You won't get a single cent, and you might even end up with the same charges as Leo. I gave you heaven, but it was you who insisted on jumping into hell. I stood up, not looking at her again, straightened my suit and tie, as if I had just dealt with a piece of insignificant trash. Lawyer Jane, I'll leave the rest to you. All right, Mr. George. Jane nodded, then signaled to the security personnel beside her. Please escort this former Mrs. George out. Mary was lifted up by 2 tall security guards. She struggled, cried out, and cursed like a shrew, completely losing the grace and dignity she usually had. Everything she once had vanished overnight, turning into nothing but a dream. What awaits her is endless contempt, scorn, and the miserable fate of being completely abandoned by the entire upper class. I watched as this farce, directed by my own hand, slowly came to an end. The overwhelming hatred in my heart, at this moment, found its most thorough and exhilarating release. But strangely, the anticipated joy and pleasure did not appear. In my chest, there was only a vast emptiness and exhaustion, as if it could consume everything. The guests in the banquet hall had long since left, leaving only a mess behind. Jane came over to me and handed me a cup of warm water. Everything has been taken care of. She looked at me, her eyes a little complicated. Leo's guilt is undeniable. Multiple charges mean he won't be out for at least 10 years. As for Mary, she left with nothing, her reputation ruined. In this city, she's socially dead. I nodded, took the glass of water, but didn't drink. George, Jane hesitated for a moment, then asked, doing this, are you really happy? Are you happy? I looked out the window at the dazzling city lights, feeling somewhat dazed for a moment. Once upon a time, I was also one of these countless lights, longing for a warm home and a loving partner. I thought I had built an unbreakable kingdom with my own hands, a harbor that could shelter me from the wind and rain. In the end, I realized that it was the most magnificent tomb I had built for myself with my own hands. The great revenge was fulfilled. Those 2 who personally pushed me into hell were also kicked down by me in return. I won. I won back everything of mine, but also completely lost everything. In my past life, they forcibly drew a full stop to my life. In this life, I crawled back from hell and rewrote the ending. But when I stood at the edge of the abyss and looked down, I realized that the echo of the abyss had long been etched into my bones, becoming a part of my soul. I can never go back. I can't return to the George who once naively believed in kindness and love. My revenge is over, and what remains for me is a new life of endless wealth and absolute loneliness, just beginning. I returned alone to that villa, as spacious as a palace, sat on the sofa where they once tumbled, and poured myself a glass of wine. The wine was good, rich on the palate with a long aftertaste. But when it touched my lips, I couldn't taste a thing. Outside the window, the world was still brightly lit, bustling with traffic. But all this noise has nothing to do with me anymore. Beneath my throne, there is no one.